Tails doll is one of the many Sonic characters to just disappear from the franchise without any real warning. Many Sonic characters just come and go, and often they do just disappear quietly without Sega saying anything about it. But then sometimes they even get a grand return, such as Mighty and Ray, the Chaotix, Metal Sonic, and so on. However, Tails doll is one of those characters we're unlikely to see ever again, and because of that, the Sonic series should address the in-story disappearance of Tails doll. If Sega won't do it, then I guess I will. Like I've done before, I always find it best to talk about a character's history before talking about the character themselves and their unseen story. Tails doll was a character who appeared in 1997 in the Sonic racing game Sonic R, and he never made any appearances since. The bizarre thing about this is that his debut appearance was in a racing game rather than an actual game. Sega chose to make two entirely new characters, Tails doll and Metal Knuckles, for Sonic R, rather than include any of the other previous characters such as Fang, Bean, Bark, SBO, Vector, Mighty, Ray, Charmy, Silver Sonic, Mecha Sonic. But you see where I'm going with this. Those were all characters who had appeared in the classic Sonic games, and were still very relevant. It would have made more sense to use a character like Fan, Bean, Bark or SBO, because they had already been transferred into 3D for the previous 3D game, Sonic the Fighters, which only came out the year before Sonic R. And this was also around the time Sonic Extreme was still being produced, which was a cancelled 3D Sonic game, and they had achieved making another 3D model of Fang, but nope. Sega went with creating some new characters for some reason. Tails doll gets more attention because of his unsettling appearance. Even in the Archie comics, the creators decided to turn Tails doll into this creepy living doll of a character that could achieve some terrifying new form. And the off-panel comic strip addressed the issue of Tails doll being some creepy nightmare creature. This is all because of the creepypasta craze, where the Tails doll was villainized into this entity that could curse you and escape the game. Honestly, that's how I first ever heard of the Tails doll, and these stories did terrify me, especially when I was playing Sonic R and my controller would glitch out and make me think the game was being cursed. Still, the reality remains that Tails doll is not some creepy ghost that will curse you, so I won't be talking about the creepypasta side of the character because it has no real significance. In Sonic R, Tails doll is just a rival to Tails. It's quite obvious that both he and Metal Knuckles are supposed to be the robotic clones of Tails and Knuckles, since they are also accompanied by Metal Sonic in this game. But it does seem weird that the character designers settled with a creepy doll. Then again, I suppose it also makes sense. Tails doll has this soft and doll-like appearance because he is not a fighter, unlike Metal Sonic and Metal Knuckles. The red jewel on his head is what guides and controls him, allowing him to float, but nothing else seems to be able to aid him, unlike Metal Knuckles who has the sharp claws, clearly meant for attacking and possibly climbing and digging if necessary. So if Tails doll is not designed to fight, he is most likely designed for spy purposes. His ability to float silently helps him sneak around, while characters like Metal Sonic and Metal Knuckles have metallic footsteps and loud jet engines. Essentially, Tails doll is used for intelligence, and perhaps downloads and scans everything he learns, so that it can be passed on to his superiors. This can also be deduced because of the fact that Tails doll is a clone of Tails. Tails is younger than Sonic and Knuckles and isn't really supposed to be much of a fighter. He's a sidekick and he's intelligent, so it makes sense that his robotic clone is somewhat similar. With enough information on his design and character outside of the game's lore, let's delve into Tails doll's in-game story and what his fate was after the events of Sonic R. In Sonic R, Dr. Robotnik wanted to show off two new robots, Metal Knuckles and Tails doll. He built them because he had discovered that Tails and Knuckles were just as annoying as Sonic, so he needed more robots to deal with them. This is especially linked to the fact that Metal Sonic had previously confronted and battled with Knuckles and the Chaotix, which left Robotnik to repair him, and perhaps that confrontation left the Doctor to decide that Metal Sonic would be better off facing against Sonic rather than others like Knuckles and Tails, who had different skills. Metal Knuckles was obviously designed to combat Knuckles, but Tails' doll's purpose was somewhat different. Robotnik could still use other robots against Tails because he was not as powerful as Sonic and Knuckles, even if he had been on some of his own adventures. Tails' main ability was flight, which almost all of Robotnik's badniks could do, so Tails' doll was just used to rival Tails' intelligence, and perhaps even outsmart the young fox, while also acting as a stealth machine sent to spy on the enemies. But Robotnik saw that this machine was essentially useless. When racing Tails' doll in Sonic R, he is incredibly slow and pathetic. Speed isn't key for a stealth robot, but if caught, he would easily be caught up to and destroyed, and perhaps he would even lose valuable information which reveals Robotnik's plans and location. The Tails doll couldn't even defend itself if confronted, so it was useless. So, after testing his robots out with these races, Dr. Robotnik eventually decided to scrap Tails' doll entirely, and perhaps Metal Knuckles met the same fate. There is a chance that they were both just locked away and are still waiting to be deployed, but it seems more likely that Tails' doll would definitely be destroyed because he was just so useless. Which means that the character of Tails' doll, the one we saw in Sonic R, no longer exists in Sonic's universe and will probably never be seen ever again. But there is still some hope for Metal Knuckles, who at least was able to fight. So there you go, that's the potential fate Tails' doll met after Sonic R. Thank you to Cara Bill for requesting this video. Do any of you think differently? What do you think happened to Tails' doll? Do you think we can still see him again? Let me know down in the comments. I'm Lord Danny, signing out.